We will never know exactly how much damage was done by the Ixtoc rig, but 31 years later, just maybe, Mexico's blowout leaves a little room for optimism.
I can't believe there are too many people that get back here, huh?
Whoops.
In the Bay of Campeche, stuck deep in the mangrove trees, rests a piece of maritime history showing the ravages of time.
How many people know about it?
Muy pocos, porque nadie se mete en el monte.
Very few people really know about it.
Accessible only by boat, and mostly a secret.
Is there anything on it that says Ixtoc, or there used to be?
The markings have faded over the years, but local fishermen like Bernabe Pastrana know this buoy is all that remains of the Ixtoc oil rig.
But it made its way all the way over here when the Hurricane Gilbert passed by.
That was 9 years after Ixtoc suffered a massive blowout and led to what had been the Gulf's worst spill. At the time, scientists like Wes Tunnell feared the worst.
Oh no, this is going to kill everything in the area. It's going to wipe it out.
Off and on for the last 31 years, Tunnell has surveyed the effects of Ixtoc, and he admits to being a bit baffled at the Gulf's recovery.
But yet, 2.5 to 3 years later, that was all recovered.
In places that got smothered in oil, the seafood harvest fell by up to 70% in the following year. For the most part, by the early 80s, the finfish, the octopus, staples of the Mexican fishing industry, had bounced back.
Natural environments are resilient, and they will come back from disturbances.
Texas A&M's Paul Montagna says think of it as being like a forest fire. A pristine wilderness area suffers the ravages of fire, but nature stages a rally. Conventional wisdom used to hold that spills did almost all of their damage in the first weeks after an event. But scientists have learned over the years that each spill is different, and the answers are often not so simple. Even in Mexico, the recovery is not complete. Whaler Gomez was 10 years old when the spill drove a black tide of oil into the mangrove trees where oysters once thrived. Gomez, Chuco to his friends, says it took only a couple of days to virtually wipe out the oysters.
That's the first thing that got exterminated, the oysters.
Chuco and marine biologist Julio Sanchez explained the oysters once provided local fishermen and their families a bounty.
The whole family ate from one root of oysters. Cut off the root of the mangrove they chose, one of the juiciest oysters, and take it home. And here's the lunch.
And that's gone.
And it's gone permanently. And
nobody really knows why, except it happened after Ixtoc.
After Ixtoc.
The Mexican government tried to regrow the mangrove oysters. It didn't work.
Some did grow a little bit, but then even the fishermen would say they tasted like oil still.
And though the loss of the oyster fishery might seem to sound warning bells for Louisiana, the mangrove oysters are an entirely different species. The reef oysters, like the ones you find in the northern Gulf, have recovered. Or so it seems. In the island community of Isla Orena, Leonardo Perez sows nets for the just-begun octopus harvest. Perez complains that so much is unknown about the populations in these waters prior to Ixtoc.
He's mentioning that nobody had made a study of how much oysters there were before the oil spill. But he said it was a lot.
We found one fisherman in Celestine that said he found oysters. He knows where they are. And so the other oyster guys around him said, where are they? And he wouldn't tell anybody where they were. A classic fisherman, you know.
Texas A&M's Wes Tunnell has been urging his counterparts in Mexico to run a more thorough census.
It's hard to just go by fishing stories to believe totally in that. So we need to really get some good scientific evidence.
Ixtoc forever changed their lives. For the fishermen, for the Gulf, some things are not as they were. But in the tiny fishing villages that endured the Gulf's second worst spill, all is not lost.
A research paper published for the United Nations in March, just a month before the BP spill, laments the lack of hard data on Mexico's seafood harvest prior to Ixtoc. They don't know how much was caught. Mexico's great blowout is truly a story of lessons lost.
And preventing those fishermen from getting out in the water after the spill actually helped the recovery.
Yeah, it did, and this is a point of some dispute, but that same UN report says that the fish had a 3-month break, the seafood, the shellfish, and that when they were caught again, the harvest looked good. Herein lies the rub, though, and this is what we'll get into tomorrow night, is you can have a lot of adults that swim away, the harvest looks great, what you don't know is you lost a whole year of larvae that babies, imagine, as one of the researchers said, imagine an entire year with no human babies born. We don't know what's going to happen to these species.
All right.
See you
Thanks,
tomorrow
John.
night. Thanks, John.